For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Hey, everybody, Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks so much for tuning in week after week. If this is your first episode, you made a really good decision. Check out the rest of our episodes on iTunes or on SoundCloud or at thescribbleshow.com. And always on Twitter, by the way, at The Scribble Show. Would love to hear from you there. So several weeks ago on the show, we did a series of legendary music artists. It was a retro flashback, if you will. We had the Village People, Gloria Gaynor, the Casey and the Sunshine Band, and we had really a tremendous response, so we're doing it again. We're going to hear from Petula Clark coming up in just a little bit, and Peter Noone. But first, I guess it depends on what day you're listening to this. I hope you're not having a manic Monday.
Celeb spotting on The Scribble.
Vicki Peterson from the Bangles joining us on the line right now. Hello there.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
How would you describe how would you describe this Monday?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's manic.
Okay, all right.
It was slightly less. It's more relaxed than
That's
manic
right.
today, which is good. But got some work done. Got a phone call in with my Bangle mates. We're figuring out our scheduling for the next couple of months for recording and that sort of thing.
Let's talk about that, though. You know, the group is back, I guess. It's still rocking, though, so let's go back. There was a little bit of drama, and I know there was gossip and rumors about what happened to the group. It was time for a break. Is that essentially what happened, or what was the case?
That was essentially what happened, even though at the time I probably would have argued that point because I was adamantly against it. But it didn't take long for me to look back and say, well, that was exactly what we needed to do. Is just take a decade or so off.
Well, yeah. And I mean, they say absence makes the heart grow. And that's essentially what happened. I mean, we all needed to just sort of expand our worldview a little bit and have lives as individuals as opposed to simply as Bangles. It was a pretty constricting lifestyle for most of the 80s. Just working and touring together constantly and not really having an opportunity to expand out and have our own lives and that sort of thing. And I guess in that time there were some babies, there was a solo career, so everybody kind of went off and, found themselves for a little bit and then essentially came back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I went off to New Orleans and made music with the Continental Drifters, had a very completely different musical experience and lifestyle, was very happy there, actually, when Susanna started making increasingly frequent phone calls to me saying, I don't know if you feel like it, but maybe we could do something. and it sort of it intrigued me on the level of well if we could really just be an actual viable band and create new music. Maybe I'm not really interested in doing the whole just reunion trip for the sake of it and for doing, the sort of packaged nostalgia tours and that sort of thing. It wasn't really interesting to me, but we actually did come together and start writing some new music and have been doing so for like the previous 10 years. It's been 10 years now.
Yeah, and so, I mean, like you're saying, there was a bit of reluctance, but I guess, over your journey when you were taking the break, I'm sure you all brought new and exciting things to the group now that you're back together, right? You'd taken what you'd learned from, whether it's motherhood or solo career, anything like that, and then now you've got that new energy with the group.
Absolutely. I mean, really, there's so much to be said for life experience and for, the wisdom of aging. Yes. Let's call it that, shall we? I mean, it's really, it can't be emphasized enough that we did learn so much and have brought a wealth of experience and new ideas and new feelings and and a much better way of working with each other to this incarnation.
And you mentioned something. You mentioned nostalgia, and a couple weeks ago I went to the casino with my friend. We did dinner and dancing, and it was a great time. The cover band was doing Walk Like an Egyptian, and we were the youngest people there. We're in our 20s, but you had people in 50s, 60s, 70s, and then us in our 20s. Everybody just on the dance floor having a good time. Like the music is timeless. It seems too.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It took me a while to kind of come back around to that point of view. Really, there was a time where I said, you wouldn't be able to pay me enough money to do that song again. But I sort of learned that's a very restrictive view of things because people do love it and they just have so much fun. And when we play that song live, when we play some of our other hits and then a lot of the album cuts that people who know the Bangles love, you get so much energy from the audience. It's so rewarding for us.
Well, what song does get the biggest response during a show?
Egyptian.
Oh, is it? Okay.
For the most part.
Have you made any observations as you've traveled the world with the group?
The last time we were in Japan, I did a little cheerleading and had everyone just going woo, just like come on, you got to give us something here because it's eerie, it's so quiet. And you're not used to that at a rock show.
What are they doing though? Like, are they just sitting there? Are they tapping? Are they clapping?
Literally sitting with their hands in their laps, politely waiting for the next moment to happen.
Oh, jeez.
And then you play your song, and then they clap very politely. They're very pleased, and then they sit.
Wow. Wow, that's got to be really... You probably want to get to the next song as quickly as possible then.
It does kind of mess with your flow a little bit. You're sort of... Okay.
Well, you're wanting...
And, of course, their English is better than my Japanese, so they do understand some of the things that we say, but it's not like... even in Europe, where you think, well, how much of my stage, explanations and chatter to them, or are they really getting? But it's it's true that even in many countries in the world, English is fairly well understood. So you still feel a connection. It's interesting when you kind of come across these other cultures.
Mm-hmm. And we can always then check out your website with all the latest news about your tours and albums and everything, right?
Absolutely. TheBangles.com.
There we are. We'll be checking that out for sure. Vicki Peterson, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom41.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom41.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 41.com. Go to freedom41.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom41.com.
Celeb spotting on the Scribble.
The legendary Peter Noone is joining us on the line right now. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Jeremy, legendary. That's always makes me sound like I'm not quite alive anymore.
Oh well, how about iconic? What would you suggest?
Well, it depends which town you're in, but I'll go with anything you call me. Anything you call me now, as long as you get the name spelled right.
We'll do that. All right, perfect. So now you're still touring, you're still rocking. After all these years, you know what? I think that's something to be proud of, right? You can say that you're getting older, but you know what? You've still got it. So hey, that's the main point, isn't it?
Exactly. I think what it is I discovered recently. What I found out is that I'm this 17-year-old boy that lives inside a 63-year-old man's body.
Right.
And I have to. When I go on stage, I actually think I'm 63. It's almost Spanish Latin. It's like I believe, I become another person for an hour and a half. And by the way, that you feel that the next day when you're 63.
Do you? So, well, now aside from that, though, how does it feel, though? I mean, is it still exciting when you go out there? Like, what's it like still on the road?
It is. What happened is, it's very funny. I did a sort of, I'm in Nashville, and my daughter came to a concert here with me. There was a band playing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. And I was just going to be a guest and sing See Emily Play, which is not really part of Dark Side of the Moon. So they played the whole of Dark Side of the Moon brilliantly, I may add. And then at the end they had guests who got up and sang, "Nice, thanks, Emily Play." And my daughter said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "Of course I'm nervous. I'm always nervous." And then I realized that, people, if you're not nervous, it means you're too comfortable in it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't have a set list, and I don't deprogram the show to be, the same old, day in, day out. It wasn't really for myself that I did. I wanted to make sure that the Hermits always were, enthusiastic, really, because if you don't know what the next song is, you have to listen and you have to pay attention, like in a play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very enthusiastic, and I'm always very nervous because, first of all, I don't know what I'm going to do next. So it means that look of enthusiasm on their face could also be consternation as to what the heck is it next.
All right.
And they know that I don't know. So it keeps it very fresh, we're kind of all excited to do concerts. We're always happy to see each other. I know bands that don't have that option, that they're all, we'll get on, we don't hang out. We don't all go out to dinner together every day, and we just friends musically. And that was the heart. That's what makes it work. I think when we get on the road and we do what we do as well as we can, and it's never perfect.
So what do you do before?
There's always something to work on.
Yeah, what do you do before a show then to relax? If you're nervous, what happens before a show?
Well, I've got a routine. I'm one of those old-timers, I get in my dressing room, I have no visitors for an hour before, and I do these warm-ups, me, mama, moo, and I do stretches, and then I talk to the band about, and then I find out where I am and where the people in the audience are likely to be from. It's just old formula, that you would, almost like a stand-up comedian, you have to have that bit of time before on to get yourself in order.
Yeah.
And I always do that, and I've always done that, and people misinterpret. You say, Herman sort of session, we say, guests, no alcohol, no smoking, no visit. The dressing room is where we prepare for the show. And usually one of the parts of the warm-up is we usually sing a couple of Everly Brothers, a couple of Beatles songs, and for our own entertainment. You know what I mean? We sing music with each other. We play guitars, and people wonder what we're doing on the downtime, and on the downtime we're doing what we're doing on the stage. There's different songs. There's some songs that we do in Europe that are not even known in America. It's just strange. I like to open with "I'm to Something Good" because it's such a great opening song. Woke up this morning feeling fine,
mm-hmm.
and I always end with "There's a Kind of Hush All Over the World," and they both get probably the biggest charge. They give people a charge. First of all, they think, why is he starting with one of his best songs? Well, we've got loads of them.
Yeah.
So then, and then some nights, we do No Note Today, which was a B-side in North America, and that gets a huge response because people know it. That's the one that sort of people discovered after the band, sort of discovering a Buddy Holly song that was his B-side, but is your favorite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get big response to No Note Today sometimes. And we get, each song has a different place. Like if you're playing in California, "A Must to Avoid" was the biggest song in California. Who knows? I think they're all I treat them all with the maximum amount of respect, and everybody in the band has to try to play it at least as good as it was on the original recording by 17-year-old boys.
Now, I know exactly, you started in music really early, and I mean, let's sort of shift gears then, because, show business, the kids are starting really young these days, and you did it obviously successfully. What are your thoughts on it in the way the celebrity world is now? Like, were you ready for fame personally? Do you think you could have handled it if you just started out today?
I don't think they have those vans anymore that you travel around with all your equipment and all your clothes in it.
Right.
And I think that is a necessary. If you think about the people who had any lasting appeal, they all did that. They drove around together in a van, and they got rid of the bass player because he had gas, and one guy drank too much, and they got rid of him. I think there's a period of 2 years that you need to just be finding who the band or who the entertainer is. And I think what happens now, people get pushed out there really quickly, and they burn out. Because if you don't know who you are in a band, then you're really going to struggle out there on the road. You're going to spend a lot of time in your room or in a bar. So we didn't get, because we knew we were Herman Hermits, and all we wanted to do was hear our songs on the radio. That was we didn't have a plan beyond that.
Right.
So we knew who we were. We were Herman Hermits. And people said, well, you need to do a psychedelic album. And we, laughed in their faces. Like anybody who would have bought the record would have laughed in our faces. Mm-hmm. We knew who we were and what we weren't capable of doing. And nobody could ever talk us into doing anything beyond that. You couldn't talk us into doing... They wanted us to do the Ed Sullivan Show, and we only agreed to do it because I wanted to meet Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons.
Okay.
We do it when they're on.
Right.
And it's kind of preposterous, but we did have a very good taste, I think, in we're playing in Memphis. Can I meet Elvis? You know what I mean?
Right.
We were those kind of people. And because of that, we stayed away from trouble, and one of the great things that we got, we ended up, all the guys in Herman Hermits were nice people, and that was useful, because, some of them I couldn't win in a fight, so they had to be nice people.
Right.
and one at a time I could take them all. If any of them ganged up, I was lost. But,
yeah.
They were nice guys, so it made it possible. And I don't know if you can count on that if you've got a crowd of people that you don't know really well, haven't driven around and played bars and had stuff thrown at you on stage. I think that's part of the process that is missing. And I bet you the next big act, like the last big act was probably U2, right, or Kings of Leon, or you can say, I bet they've been in a band together for a couple of years.
Well, and the reason why I ask that is because back in the day, it seems like there was more emphasis on the music and appreciation for the music. And I say it coincidentally, a girl posted a video on YouTube, and Lady Gaga saw it the next day. Then the girl was off to Toronto. She was on the Ellen show. Like, all within a week, she's all of a sudden, big-time celebrity stardom, and she's 9 years old. I mean, I can only imagine it's exciting, but probably scary, too, because now there's this expectation that she's going to be this big-time recording artist, right? I mean, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, I know. A friend of mine once said, the trouble with that is that the voice doesn't get better than that, you know what I mean? The trouble with making it too quickly is that sometimes the voice doesn't improve. You just become a regular singer. The thing is, wow, she's so great and she's only 9. Well, by the time she's 17, she'll only be the same as all those other 17-year-old singers. And it won't be good enough.
Right, and she's 9 and she can sing somebody else's song really nicely. That's kind of...
everybody loves all that. It's like Susan Boyle and all that stuff. Everybody loves something that just pops out. And it's all so ordinary. I mean, you mentioned Lady Gaga, which is they're just revamps of Madonna. I mean, I think it's this. When people watch Herman Hermits, listen, when I started, if you were like anybody else, if they could liken you to somebody else, you wouldn't even get signed with a deal. Right. You've already got one of those. So explain that. Well, the Beatles weren't like Elvis Presley, and Elvis Presley wasn't like Herman Hermits, and Herman Hermits weren't like the Beatles or Elvis Presley or the Stones, and the Stones like the Zombies, and the Zombies weren't just the Pacemakers, and the Zombies weren't like Herman Hermits, and the Herman Hermits weren't like the Stones, and the Stones weren't like Elvis Presley or the Beatles. So everybody that was in the charts those weeks, and none of them were like Roy Orbison or Gene Pitney, and they were all in the charts at the same time. And none of them you could be saying, it's like, because you heard the Stones, you knew it was the Stones.
Yeah.
But now I hear songs, I have no idea who it is.
Yeah.
I have no idea Is it the Kings of Leon? Is it U2 or is it? Wait, no. Oh, sorry. It's Coldplay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and exactly right.
There's hundreds and hundreds of people all making the same records. Well, you know, you put a Roy Orbison. There are people all through the musical, each musical period who stand out. Sex Pistols, you know that's the Sex Pistols. Elton John, you know it's Elton John. Mm-hmm. Billy Joel, you know it's Billy Joel. You know, there's all these people who pop out and you go, Billy Joel, Olivia Newton-John, you know, you can name them. And they're the different. The rest of the people are just washing around in this fluff of disappointments because you know that they're not going to, 30 years from now, they're not going to be able to do it.
And I think that, you know, a lot of the emphasis on computerization in a sense, right? I mean, it's you don't even have to sing perfectly. It's the computer does all the work these days, it seems.
That's a line out of my show, you know. I say, and you will hear mistakes, but we only make them to prove we're not on a computer.
That's a good way to do it.
You know, sometimes there's a real train wreck because we do songs that we don't know some nights because that's what keeps it fresh. Mm-hmm. You know, like I went through this period of years where I would ask the audience to request the songs that they thought we didn't know. And, you know, you always get some schmuck who shouts out Free Bird. But sometimes we get shouted out songs that have now become, you know, we think we don't know them. Sometimes I only listen to the songs that I think, you know, there's 100 people shouting. Of course, I'm like a magician, only going to choose the one that we know a bit of.
Right.
We added all kinds of songs to our repertoire from that element of saying, anybody got a request for a song that we don't know? And they'd shout out like Love Potion No. 9 or Do Wah Diddy or something that's their generation. And of course we play all those. Mm-hmm. You can play, that's what we do for fun. We play other people's songs for fun.
Sounds like a very entertaining show, so I guess I'm not even going to ask what we can expect at the show because you don't even know what we're going to expect at the show until you're up there.
You know, you hear all of Hermit's biggest songs. You know, we're going to do like I'm in Something Good, A Wonderful World, and Little People and Silhouettes and Just a Little Bit Better, and Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, and I'm Henry VIII, I Am, and She's a Must to Avoid, and No Milk Today, and There's Kind of Hush, and, you know, probably I Walk the Line, or, you know, Start Me Up by the Stones, or It's Not Unusual by Tom Jones, or Cheer Up, Daydream Believer by Davy Jones. You know, we do all those, and, you know, He Stopped Loving Her Today by George Jones. You know, we just do everything that we can fit in. We're always over time. We're one of those bands that always plays longer than we're supposed to.
They're turning the lights off in the background and you're still up there. Yeah. They're trying to close the place.
Yeah.
So all the details, peternoone.com, right? Is your website for all the details about your tour and upcoming events?
Yeah, peternoone.com, hermansermis.com, or all those Facebook places. It's all over the place. We constantly dabble in that.
Peter Noone, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you. It was great talking to you. What fun.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Celeb spotting on the Scribble.
The legendary Petula Clark is joining us on the line right now. Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Well, I'm very well.
Is it true you've got over, 1,000 songs under your belt? That's amazing.
I don't know. I've never sat down and counted them, quite honestly. It's quite possible. It could even be more. You know, because I have all the French repertoire as well, and then, of course, the German and the Italian. I don't know. I don't count.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at counting anyway, so it's quite possible it's 1,000. It's quite possible it's 2,000. Maybe somebody would like to do it for me. Count it for me.
As you mentioned, you've recorded in several languages, though, so let's recap which ones you know.
Well, I do speak French, so, you know, and I had a huge career in France, which sort of rather took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it. And so that's where I've recorded sort of most. English, obviously, is my language. I am English, by the way. And I've recorded a lot in Italian and German and a little bit in Spanish. I didn't get on too well with the Spanish language. I don't really know why. But Italian I absolutely love.
That's great. So now you started performing very early on in life. Do you remember like your first public show? You were a kid, weren't you? What was that like?
Well, I know the exact show. I suppose I was about maybe 5 or 6. So that's going back a bit. I just like to sing. When I say I'm English, I'm actually British. I'm half Welsh.
Right.
And the Welsh are very musical, and I spent a lot of time in Wales as a kid. I used to speak Welsh. And singing was second nature to me. So when I sort of sang in public, as you put it, I mean, I don't quite remember. I always seem to be singing for the pleasure and also for people who wanted to listen to me as well. So, I started getting paid to sing, which I suppose then being professional, when I was about 7 or 8. And then I sang for the BBC when I was 8, BBC Radio, and that was for the forces who were serving in the UK. There were lots of Canadians, incidentally, and they were amazing with the kids in England. But obviously the GIs, and then the Free French who were there, the Poles, and the Brits, of course. So that I became England's sort of little girl. Vera Lynn was the sweetheart, and I was England's little girl. I represented all the kids.
And that must be really appealing too, to help motivate you to continue on, knowing that you're helping people just through music. I mean, that's a really big thing.
I don't know. I think that I'm very privileged, and we in show business are privileged to be doing something that we love and making a living out of it. Actually, what I've been recording in New York is quite interesting. I wrote a song which is going to be the sort of anthem of there's this whole movement of using music and art to help people in hospitals with psychological problems and physical problems. And I'm doing this particular one in Switzerland, in Geneva, where I live. And that's something quite positive that one could do with music. But music is a help in any way. I mean, I remember when I was in hospital once, and radio was the only thing I wasn't allowed to watch television. And it's amazing the power of the human voice.
It definitely is. What's something? I mean, you've traveled all over the world, as you've mentioned. You've done every sort of venue as well. What's one thing that you've really learned about yourself professionally, or even just personally, while on tour or while doing music?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I've done all sorts of different things. I've been doing my own show with band on stage, obviously, and that's a very different thing to doing something like Sunset Boulevard or like a book show, a musical, when you're working with other people on stage. And I enjoy both. I love playing a role because it helps you to discover things about yourself. When you're just being yourself on stage, that's all you're doing, and I find that when I'm playing a role, I'm able to sort of dig around and use parts of my psyche, if you like, that I wouldn't use normally on stage.
What are you working on now then? So you've got some new songs then. What can we expect in the next, couple years?
But I've been doing quite a lot of writing over the past years, and I've always written, but I think I've perhaps gained a bit more confidence in my writing, and so I will be doing some of those songs.
Well, we are looking forward to it. The legendary Petula Clark, thank you so much for joining us. All the best to you.
Thank you.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Seriously, I always feel like we're just getting started, and then it's like, oh, no, we're out of time. 30 minutes flies by when you're chatting with legendary music artists. I want to thank everybody who has tuned in week after week at thescribbleshow.com or on SoundCloud or subscribed on iTunes. Always love hearing your feedback. As you just heard, we're on Twitter at The Scribble Show. And we're back next week. Some comedy stars will be joining us, having some laughs with some really, really fun comedians. My name is Jeremy Bradley, and this is The Scribble. Talk to you next time.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,